Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the SkateProud chats. So excited for the talk today. We are going to be talking with the one and only Jackie Wong of RockerSkating and host of the Ice Talk podcast, recent Jeopardy participant, most beloved man in skating media.
Oh, Karina, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Wait, hold on. I'm having technical difficulty. Let me come back.
Oh, no, you're fine. Fortunately, I'm not the one to help with technical difficulties.
I'm back.
Okay, perfect.
I was trying to figure out my AirPods, and of course, that didn't work the first time around. So there you go.
It's okay. The technical difficulties here are abundant. I don't know. I'll admit that. So it's all good. So how are you doing?
I'm good. I mean, it's been an interesting few months. I feel like if I think back to about 3 months ago today, which was basically when Worlds was supposed to have started, I like the big things on my mind were, oh no, Worlds isn't going to be happening. What's going to happen with figure skating?
Mm-hmm.
You know, oh, this COVID thing is probably going to be, a couple months,
Yeah.
and of course, we are where we are now, and I am having a lot of trouble. Hold on. At we are where we are now, and it's gone, especially in the United States, more than just COVID. It is now, this reckoning of racial issues, and of course, um, with the with that comes, Pride Month and thinking about Pride issues, and having to, you know, kind of combine that with the racial issues. So it's been a lot. It's been a really interesting time, and it's made me really do a lot of self-reflection as well, based on my life and how I've lived it and how I should be living it, um, and and there's something about, I'm surprised I haven't seen more headlines about this, but 2020 as a year being, 2020 as vision, and yeah,
Ah.
the wordplay is always there, but it's been interesting that this year has been just this perfect storm of so many things, right? What about you, Karina? How have you been doing?
You know, I have to say I'm very lucky
Yeah,
because
same.
um, I was on tour with Cirque. We were sent home pretty abruptly,
Yeah,
and I had a family that I could go stay with, and I'm really enjoying spending time with them. Um, and so I don't have it so bad, and I know I'm very lucky. And so I'm trying to use this time. I think something that maybe has come from the pandemic is maybe people have a bit of time to put into these social movements, to put into
yeah,
themselves.
absolutely.
And so that's what I've been trying to do. And obviously I've taken up this project,
Yeah.
which has been, I'm like, I don't know if people know this about me, but I'm like the shyest person. And also I thought like, yeah, I can do this. Like I've done interviews before on the other side, but I'm always with Joe. And so like, I didn't realize like how scared I would be. Not that I'm alone. You're here, like Asher, Javi,
Yeah.
but whew, I get
Yeah.
nervous.
Well, let's just say that you're doing a fantastic job, and you are one of the most articulate people that I know, period. So
Thank
you
you.
you should take that and run with it.
Thank
Um, yeah, I mean, I remember when I first started doing interviews, like I'm not a trained journalist. I didn't do all the things that other people have done. God, my hair is out of control.
I know you said on
Um,
Twitter, like, not to ask about your hair, but look at what I have going on here. This is what happens when you grow a pixie cut during a pandemic. So don't feel bad.
I feel like I'm starting to get a pixie cut. Um, but what was I saying? Something about COVID and hair, I'm sure. But it's oh, when I started interviewing people, I was like, I don't know what to do. And then you do a couple of them and you realize it's just like talking to a friend,
Yeah.
which is what you're doing.
And I think I'm trying to learn new skills. I think this project is very important to me. And so I'm stretching myself right now, which is good.
Always good.
Mm-hmm. So first question, and you might not even have an answer for this.
Probably won't.
Amidst the pandemic, amidst everything that's going on right now, we don't really know what's happening with the skating season. Do you have any special plans for RockerSkating?
I don't know. And
That's okay.
I mean, it's this this time of the skating year is when I kind of disconnect a little bit from skating, go back to my regular life as, a consultant and do all my work things and
Mhm.
spend time not thinking about skating. But yeah, but I have been kind of inordinate or in spending an inordinate amount of time thinking about figure skating. I can't say I have anything planned. I wish I did. I am fortunate to be working in my regular job and doing the things that I'm doing, and so I'm glad that that's happening. And so um, I, I have been putting a lot more of my energy and time and whatever to things that are for me right now and for a lot of people more important than figure skating and
Mhm.
more important than not just figure skating but more important than my site, right? Like that's at the end of the day, my site is a lot of me like self promotion, like making sure that I become a bigger influence, and that's not the important thing right now.
Mhm.
And I'm glad you know this. I'm working with you guys with
Mhm.
SkateProud. I'm working with Diversify Ice. I've been doing things with my own firm, kind of doing the talking about and acting on all the issues. So
Mhm.
yeah, rocker skating is in a stagnant position.
That's what, actually, that's true. I know that you have been kind of behind the scenes working on some other projects. You've been helping us out at Skate Proud with um, things on the other end that maybe are not as visible right now. But
Yeah.
so thank you for that, because I think that's some really important work right now.
What just happened? There we go. There we go. Technical difficulties. Gotta love it.
It's okay. Okay. So I wanted to maybe start with just another getting to know you beginning story. How did you get involved with skating?
Oh boy. I started skating in 1993, I think. And it started because I watched the '92 World Championships. This has been a story that I've told a few times, but I watched the '92 Worlds and was mesmerized by figure skating and kind of started jumping around my living room. And my parents were like, "Fine, we'll take you to the rink."
Hmm.
And then I realized I had some kind of natural talent in skating, but I wasn't that naturally talented. So it was, and I also started late
Hmm.
compared to a lot of people. And so um, I what I knew I wanted to do was just to enjoy it and less to kind of be competing and those kinds of things.
Hmm.
And so that's what I did for like the first few years of skating. Like I was doing double jumps. I was doing really horrible technique triple jumps, but like
I
um,
those.
But yeah, I did that, and then I kind of fell out of it for a little bit and came back in college to skate, and started the Stanford figure skating team, and then when I was in grad school, I started the Penn figure skating team. Like that
Nice.
was sort of this renaissance of me skating.
Mhm.
That was really fun, I think, and that was when I actually started learning how to skate. To be perfectly honest with you, right? Like actually figuring out what a sort of real figure skater was. And so that was kind of my second uh, resurgence in skating, and now I have a third well, my first renaissance in skating. This is my second renaissance in skating as an adult, like a real adult.
Mhm.
So I'm back on the ice. I've been back on the ice for about a year. Well, whatever that means right now. Um, who knows what I'm going to do with it? But it's been great. Skating. My coach is Elliot Halverson, who you know plenty well. But yeah, it's been fun. But rocker skating has been this thing that came out of nowhere, and I used to be a judge. I used to you know, coach, and I put that in quotes. I coached, and it was more of like I sort of, because I was learning how to skate well-ish. I knew what to spot for, and I understood the details. So I was a good sort of remedial coach, not a good developmental coach, because I didn't know how to develop people. Um, and so that all kind of translated into this thing where I was like, look, I figure skating journalism has been a bit lacking,
Mhm.
and like the people who are covering skating who have big names didn't necessarily have a skating background, or they were on NBC or ABC or whatever doing their stuff. There was no in between, and
Yeah.
so that was um, that was the genesis of me starting to write, and then my typing skills helped me become whatever I am now.
Here we are.
And now I'm chatting on Instagram with you.
I that's always it's like some things happened. Now I'm here on Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's something.
Yeah, that's everybody's story, I think.
Yeah,
Um, so I want to talk a little bit about you came out when you were a teenager.
it
Well,
was a long time ago. I came out when I was 19, well, when I was 17 in 1999. So that was 21 years ago. And I think we talked about this yesterday a little bit. I thought when I came out that I had everything figured out as an overachieving high school student who thought he knew everything, would
it too.
do, right? Um, and also, like my parents weren't, and still aren't, one at least one of my parents still isn't, the most, whatever you want to call it, tolerant of the LGBTQ plus community.
Hmm.
Um, and so like I made the decision when I came out, like I knew where to go. I know what my life is. I know I have check boxes that I need to tick. I will do this myself. And so for a very long time, and this was a lot through college as well, I spent my like early coming out years, thinking that I all I needed to do was the same thing that straight people would do, right?
Hmm.
Find someone, settle down,
Hmm.
whatever, right? And I made lots of mistakes for many years, and I go back and I think, one, I wouldn't have learned the lessons that I've learned without making those mistakes, but two, I really wish I had more support.
Hmm.
Like I really wish I myself would have reached out and be had been more vulnerable and had been more, X, Y, and Z, to get, to talk to people, to understand what being gay was really all about. And like all I wanted to do was sweep it under the rug and think everything was okay, and it wasn't. And so that took me a while. And I think we talked about this too. I wasn't out to my skating coaches.
Understandably, I've been there.
Yeah, I had a male coach in college who was straight, and I never like I was out in college. I was out to everybody I knew when I was at Stanford, but like for whatever reason in the rink, I never felt comfortable coming out.
Hmm.
And had nothing to do with my coach. It had everything to do with the fact that like I didn't really have any role models in figure skating who came out.
Hmm.
Uh, and it was like if I think back to that time, Rudy Galindo was the only one, maybe. Was he the only one who I kind of actively knew?
Yeah.
And he was a flash in the pan for me at least because like he won nationals that one year, and then he went to Worlds, and that was it. And
Hmm.
I didn't see another like out gay person again in figure skating. So I was like, oh well, okay, well, you don't have to know about my life. And of course, like that changes the dynamics of how I lived my life, how I was a skater, how I was expressing myself artistically, all of that stuff, right? Like, my wrist was too limp, and my coach will be like, what is that all about? And I would, instead of being like, hey, that's how I like to move.
Yeah.
It was, oh, right. Yeah, that was just a mistake. Sorry, I'm straight. Like that kind of thing. And it was really an interesting time. And I think about what you guys are doing with SkateProud and telling the stories and having that giving people the opportunity to see that other people have had the same issues or will have the same issues or whatever. I think that's really important.
Thanks. And thank you for being here and sharing your story, because I think like everybody's story is a little bit different.
Yeah.
But I'm always very inspired by people who come out when they're teenagers. And I know it's hard to look back on our teenage selves with a sort of like a sense of compassion because we make so many mistakes at that age.
Yeah.
But like from my perspective, hearing your story and the fact that you were 17 and you knew yourself well enough to know that and to be able to start living that way is like,
Yeah. I mean, I had known that I was gay when I was like 7. I don't know. It was like quite a while, a while. And I I've been talking to friends of mine at work about intersectionality and being a gay man, being an immigrant, being an Asian man, and thinking back in my life over the past 20, 25 years and how I've lived it. And I have very much spent the vast majority of my life trying to assimilate, um, trying to be normal, trying to be like everybody else. Like I have very much been the privileged Asian American man who has tried to live like a white person, right? Like it's uh that was what I was doing. I was being the model minority because I don't like to ruffle feathers. I don't like to rock the boat. And that's kind of that's been my story for the past 25, 30 years. And I think about the things that I've done and that I didn't do, that I haven't done as someone who has the privilege and as someone who has that intersectional quality, right, about who I am. And I wish I could go back and do more, but it's time for me to do more. And that's something that has really come to the forefront of my mind in the last, few months, really a few years, as I've thought about what I need to do with the privilege that I do have and the platform that I do have.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's very inspiring. And I think, there is this aspect of, I think, being a marginalized person in various ways. You're taught this instinct of self-preservation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then maybe later on, you don't realize that it really was self-preservation. Maybe you're giving away parts of yourself in order to protect yourself or assimilate, or and I think I've experienced that to many degrees in my life. But I think one of the beautiful things I found about being a queer person is that it can be a very creative existence.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it challenges us with these intersections. I mean, I'm queer and I'm Latina and I'm very white passing and I have privilege in that. And that's been something I've been thinking about as well throughout my career. And now I'm, and it's finding how do we use that creative existence to maybe change that narrative and make people feel like they don't have to assimilate to one thing.
Yeah. Well, and so much of the last few months has been very much about, if things are visible, people do see it. People do see through it. And I'm not talking about 100% of everybody, but had we not had cell phones and cameras and all the things that have been going on, right? Like all the technology and all the ways that we're sharing these things, like we would still be repressing a lot of this stuff and pretending like everything is okay, and it hasn't been okay. It hasn't been okay for a long time. It's I think back to like the fact that I was able to come out when I was 17 was greatly attributed to many, 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 many other people who came before me who who kind of paved the way. And I spent so many years of my life being like, well, I don't need to go protest, or I don't need to do these things because it's fine. And no, it's not fine. It's not fine because there's still lots of progress to be made, and it's not fine because had those people before me not done the things that they did, I would not be sitting here in a privileged position to be able to do the things that I do. And so it's this sort of like self-realization of like, God, you have been a hypocrite, Jackie. Like, you need to be more about doing the right things and putting yourself out there. And like, there's still obviously a level of comfort in that, but like I'm trying to figure out what are the ways that I can help that work for me, that will have impact, and not just be like, oh no, I can't do this, so I'm not going to do anything. I can't do this, but I can do other things that will help us, as a community, as a society, grow in many other ways.
I think something that I saw recently, and now I feel terrible because I don't remember where it came from. So if anybody knows like where this quote is from, please drop the sources. But I saw something the other day that was like, don't try to be the solution, try to always be a part of the solution.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important because it's not about centering yourself, but it's about finding all the different ways that you can help.
Yeah.
And I think, obviously, like, there are people speaking on this so much better than I am. So, like, I don't want to be...
But that's the thing. That's the thing, right? There isn't, like, because you are speaking about it, you are giving a voice to it, you are acting on it, whatever it is, right? You don't have to have the 100% solution to be able to do things that affect other people. And I think,
yeah, like skaters, we're perfectionists and we want to jump into something and like be good at it right away.
Yeah.
And that's not possible with activism.
Yeah.
Especially when you're advocating alongside or working as like an accomplice alongside groups that you're not a part of. You're going to get it wrong. Like, so, and I've gotten things wrong so often in my life. But it's just learning from that, I think.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is what we're trying to do now. So, so we've just got to be here and keep showing up. And alongside that, okay, so I'm making this pivot to media, I guess. Suddenly.
I never really made the pivot to media. It just kind of pivoted to me.
Yeah, I think that's
like, I'm doing a podcast. Great. Oh, I'm doing an ice desk thing. Great. I guess I could talk about things.
People are watching me all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So what role do you think skating media has to play in making sure skating is a space where we welcome everybody?
Yeah. Telling stories, right? That's what journalists do. That's what journalists are supposed to do. I don't consider myself a journalist. I consider myself, I don't know. I think Michael Weiss talked about was coining this term that I'm sure somebody else has coined as well. But like I'm a fanalist, right? Like I am a fan at heart who has technical knowledge and figure skating knowledge enough that I can be an analyst. And if I didn't love this sport as a fan, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So anyway, the point is, I think the media has obviously a voice, a platform, an influence that they can use in order to promote stories, in order to talk about things that are happening that they are observing, right? And I think about the line, and it's a generally very fine line between being objective, which I try to be, as much as the time as possible. Like that is why I put things together as RockerSkating, but trying to be objective, but also trying to then point out things that not everybody feels like is objective, and so like just because you're a journalist doesn't mean you can't have opinions. Just because you're an athlete doesn't mean you can't have opinions, right? And I think the thing that we as skating media need to do is continue to amplify people's voices where they need to be amplified, and that's the most powerful thing that we can do. I am not and will never be an investigative journalist, and like right, like I feel like there have been people who've tweeted at me or messaged me being like, why aren't you doing more about X, Y, or Z? And I'm like, yes, I hear where you're coming from, but there are other people out there who are doing this as much better than I would ever be doing it, and so I would much more be comfortable with having the professionals and amplifying their voices on it, having the people who actually know what they're saying and have had the experiences and have done all of these things, and giving them the voice as opposed to me trying to have the voice. Because whether it's being black or brown in figure skating, or abuse in skating, or any of that stuff, I don't have that experience, and I can't speak smartly about it, but other people can. And for me, the best thing that I can do is amplify people's voices. And I have And I fully admit, I have had times where I'm like, should I be doing this? Like, should I, like in my mind, I'm like, I really like, I completely agree with this person, but should I really be stirring the pot? Because like I said before, I'm not that kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is not my inherent mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And the past couple of years has made me realize that yeah, I should be amplifying people's voices because I do have a platform. So that's a long-winded way of saying media is there to give large numbers of people information.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly how we should be utilizing ourselves and our platforms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you make a good point in that you can almost never go wrong directing conversations towards the voices of experts.
Yeah.
Like that is always a tool that I think needs to be used.
Yeah.
And that's one way I think that you can almost always make sure you're spreading things that are useful.
Yeah.
And I think you bring up a very interesting point around objectivity. And this has been something I've been thinking about, maybe outside of media, but like in the lens of what is valued in skating. Because I think objectivity is sort of this lens in our society that has been cultivated by cis, able-bodied white men. Is that has kind of taken on the lens of objectivity. And it makes you think about, like, what is objectivity within a context of skating? What are the movements that we value?
Yeah.
Why do we say one style of skating is better than another? I mean, you were talking about how, like, a broken wrist, like, that was seen as, like, something you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking a lot of lately, like, I remember being told that my walk off the ice was too masculine and, like, weird. And I think there's a conversation to be had around the idea of, like, what is the movement that we value? And that's hard in a sport like skating, where the point is to literally judge movement. But I think as a skating world, maybe we need to start thinking about whose value judgments are being heard the most, who's deciding these value judgments, where they're coming from historically.
Yeah.
What objective lens is considered good.
I mean, as much as we want to be objective in figure skating, it's going to still be a subjective sport, right? Like the way that we are judging figure skating now is much more fair, much more maybe accountable than it was 20 years ago. When the IJS wasn't around. We still have plenty more to go, right? We still know that it's like, it's not like there's a robot judging things and it's exactly the same every single time. Like that's human components come into figure skating components. So yeah, I think it is a matter of thinking about who we are as a sport, what we value as a sport, as what's real. Like when you were saying that, I was like, well, in my mind, I was like, well, you know, the one thing that's objective is how good of a skater you are, and even that, right? That you know, somebody's idea of how deep and strong an edge rip is very different than somebody else's idea of how deep and strong an edge rip is. And I think, you know, I think back to a lot of the conversations about, oh, well, this person obviously doesn't have the skating skills. What are we actually, like, how are we actually talking about that? Right. And why are we talking about that? And I think that's what you're alluding to here.
And these are like big questions that I do not have all the answers to.
Frankly, I don't think it's going to ever be resolved, right? Like,
Yeah.
and if it is, there's something wrong with us, I think.
Hmm. I'm just,
Or
I'm
that
just
we've convinced ourselves that we've resolved it, even though it never is resolved.
hmm Um, but I think that's a good place to start is just thinking about what we value in bodies, what we value in movement, where those histories come from. I mean, with the talk with Asher yesterday, it was this idea of like ballroom dances have been very put under like a European
Yeah.
value lens.
Yes.
And so I think it's just being critical of these things
Yeah.
is a good place to start.
Well, but like, why is pairs skating and ice dance judged more favorably when there's, romantic chemistry between the skating partners, right? Um, I mean, I'm sure you know this well. But like, why is, I don't know, why are dramatic, angsty, programs judged more favorably than a comedic one?
Mm-hmm.
There are things that go farther than just kind of race and sexual orientation too, that like it's been kind of embedded
Mm-hmm.
that there is a right way to be a figure skater.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, it's hard to kind of extract out of that.
And skating is like a small reflection, I think, of our broader world in which like we're given these messages of like there is a right way to be a human being. Um, and I think that takes us back
Totally.
to the place of like we try to assimilate to a system that maybe is not. It's definitely set up for some people more than others.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and
Totally.
we're here to dismantle that. Welcome
See,
to SkateProud.
let's let's see what happens. I think that's the motto of this movement. Let's see what happens.
I think it's good.
Yeah,
Moving in the right direction. I'm looking at my notes. I have a notebook here because I need a cheat sheet.
that's the way to go.
Um, oh, I have another quick. This is me asking Jackie for advice on my pivot to media. What do you do to survive on the internet?
Oh God, I mute people. It's look, the the great thing about social media
Mm-hmm.
is that you can have a voice and you can amplify your influence in a fairly quick manner, I
Mm-hmm.
think. Um, the problem with the internet is that there are a lot of people who will go after you because you have a voice and they don't agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
And because they don't know you,
Mm-hmm.
it's much easier to just say things that are hurtful or that are unsubstantiated or that are whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the I talk to a lot of people about this. It, especially when you're a younger athlete and you're coming up and it's like, oh, my social media is great because it's all my friends. And then all of a sudden you become, I don't know, junior national champion or something. And then, your fan base comes up and then other people's fan bases are coming in and it's, um, the mute button is your friend. And there are just times when like I hate it when I want feedback that is constructive that I can improve on that's actually based out of reality
Mm-hmm.
and not saying that that I need to be reported to Interpol because I said one thing or another. Oh, you didn't you weren't part of the Interpol conversation, were you? That wasn't directed at me. It was actually directed at the ISU, and we'll talk about it over virtual
Okay.
drinks another
I
time.
took a
But
break from Twitter for mental health at one point in time, so maybe that was then.
yeah, but I think the thing that will happen as you as you kind of do more of this stuff is you will start having to develop a thicker skin. And like I've been plenty of times gone down the rabbit hole of looking at stuff and just being like, just feeling like I am the worst human being because there are, 3 people out there who are attacking.
Hello?
Thinking about it, and every single time you do that, you have to go back and ask yourself, what are my values? Did I act according to my values?
Mm-hmm.
And is this, am I proud of what I just said or will say or have just done and will do?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you should be kind of judging yourself on the criteria that you're trying to judge yourself on, not based on, somebody, thousands of miles away or whatever attacking you because of one thing or another. And also, if you just take a breath and you zoom out and you say, wait, no, 300 people liked this post,
Mm-hmm.
and 2 people told me that I am the worst person in the world. And that changes the perspective. And
Mm-hmm.
you just have to realize that you can't please everyone, and you never will please everyone. And I think that's the best thing you can do for yourself. And also, don't do it yourself, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
talk to other people about it, because if the more you focus in on yourself, the
Mm-hmm.
more you're going to go deep into a hole that you'll never get out of.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've learned, at least.
That's good advice, because I'm totally guilty of the thing where, like, I'll look at a video of me and Joe skating, and, like, there could be 100 comments or whatever, and, like, I will reread the one that is mean
Yeah.
over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, somebody, I remember I interviewed Brian Orser for John Wilson Blades and for Ice Talk, and it was a video interview, and I don't love being on video, to be perfectly honest with you, but because I have my own kind of self-conscious self issues that I need to deal with myself, which we all do.
Here anyway.
but like 20 minutes into it, somebody wrote, you really need to stop having the camera on this interviewer because his teeth is awful. And I'm like, yes, that is correct. I chose not to get braces on my teeth many years ago because I would have had to get 8 teeth pulled out in order to get braces. So yeah, my teeth aren't great, but there's a reason for it. But like you, I just kept looking at that comment being like, why are people so fucking mean? Like, it's not, what does that have anything to do with the substance of the interview that I'm doing?
It's so and like I do it to myself. Like, I'll watch an interview I gave and just be like, oh my gosh, like, I clench my jaw when I'm nervous, and
yeah,
so noticeable, and I hate it.
Well, I mean, I go back to like when I was on Jeopardy, and there was that, I loved the part where I got my daily double, but the faces that I made while I was thinking about how to answer that question was just like, why do you look like that? And I'm like, you know what? That is what I look like, and I'm not gonna deal. I'm not gonna even deal with that. So.
It's tough. I think just being a human being is tough. And I think something that I always try to remind myself is that when I am kind to myself, I do a better job of being kind to other people.
Yeah.
And I think, just anybody who's part of a marginalized group, I think you carry this weight of, like, that there are younger people who are watching you.
Yep.
And I think at some point in my life, I really realized, like, or in my skating career, when I started to do better, I began thinking like there will be skaters who see me at competitions, and I don't want them seeing me hating myself, because I don't want them doing that.
Yeah.
So I think
role modeling is important.
Being kind to yourself is being kind to other people.
Yeah. And role modeling is important, and that's why something like this, right, and something like the Versailles Ice and something like all of these other things that are happening are super useful, because it tells people that they're not alone in thinking about these things. It tells people that there are other, there are other people who they may or may not look up to who are doing things about taking action about what they're seeing. And so, the more you can be true to yourself, the more other people are going to actually see what you are worth. And I think that's part of what Pride Month is all about. I mean, that's a huge part of what Pride Month is all about.
Absolutely. Okay, I can't believe how time flies.
I know. What time is it? Oh my God, we've been talking for 48 minutes.
Every interview, I'm like, oh my gosh, am I gonna have enough to talk about? It's gonna be an awkward silence, and then
it's just me rambling on and on and on and on about something.
No,
this is these Instagram lives.
So good. I feel like I learned a lot from talking to you. I hope other people did. If there's anything you want to add right now, the floor is yours.
I actually had something about 20 minutes ago, and then I completely forgot. I was going to say something about media, and then I forgot what it was. I mean, I just, Karina, thank you, and thank you to you and Javi and all the rest of the SkateProud team that's working on this. And I think this is the time people's voices are being heard right now, and people have their kind of eyes and ears in tune to this stuff. I would just say, and this is advice for me, that hopefully is advice for other people as well, that I have very much been guilty of caring about something for 2 days, 3 days, and then not thinking about it for the rest of the 363 years, days of the year. Anyway, I can't do math on a Saturday morning. And I need to do better than that, right? I need to, these things are top of mind right now because they're top of mind for everybody, but I cannot stop thinking and acting on it. And I think that is something that I have committed to, as like, this is not just a one-time deal for me anymore. This will not be a one-time deal for me anymore, right? Thinking about and acting on the fact that there are Black trans people out there who paved the way for people like me. Like, I can't think about them once a year, the fact that there are other people like me, and I didn't even talk about thoughts of depression and suicide that I had back in the day. There are other teenagers, not teenagers, who are coming out and have come out, who are thinking those things. Like, that is not a thing that I have to think about once a year, right? That is, it's not only when I go to the Trevor Project Gala that I think about these things, right? Like, I have to be more present on issues that matter. And that's something that I will commit to myself to do. And I if I give advice, like, that is something that I would tell others to do as well. Because nobody can solve the world's problems, but everybody can do something to be collectively powerful.
I think it's something every day you can do something to be a part of the solution. And I think that's something that is hopeful right now is I think people are realizing like we collectively have more power than maybe we realized.
Yeah, totally.
And so we have to use it. We're obligated to use that power.
Yeah.
So that was great advice, Jackie. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Karina. This is great. Thanks for having me. Glad I could add value somehow.
It was great. I had so much fun talking to you. We'll be talking soon.
Yes.
But I'll let you go enjoy your day. Oh, and I've got an alarm going off.
The alarm is off.
So I better head out. Bye, Jackie.
Bye. Thank you. Thanks for watching, everyone.